Welcome to Prosperity Collabs, where driven professionals learn, collaborate, and level up. If you want a business that works so you can live a life that matters, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Chris Mueller.
My guest today is Austin Thompson. He is a team leader with Keller Williams from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Austin, I'm very excited to have you on the show today.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Outside of the real estate industry, the broader context, like the world is changing. It's changing
Absolutely.
fast. And AI is absolutely part of that. And so coming in to talk about that. So before we get too deep in, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So like many, it wasn't always what I expected to end up in the craziest industry in the world, right?
Yeah.
I always was someone who I love numbers. I still do. Went to school, majored in statistics, was just pumping numbers all day. And I was like, you know what? I always wanted to kind of be an entrepreneur. I wanted to carve my own path.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that looked like.
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
You majored in statistics?
Yeah.
What is like, okay,
What does that look
I don't even know what that is. Yeah. What do you do when you major in statistics?
Yeah. So what I thought it was going to be more was analyzing data.
Okay.
What it ended up being is I was usually just working with Greek and Roman numerals and doing a lot of theorems. I remember being on an enormous long whiteboard one day, just having all of these proofs and thinking, what the heck did I sign up for?
Yeah. I mean, I think for like 90% of the audience, that sounds like it just purgatory, man. Like, I don't even know.
And I'm someone who loves math, and it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I was a liberal arts major. And so I don't think I could even begin to understand what it was you were doing.
What I think it really did for me, though, was it taught me how to think and it taught me how to learn at a high level.
Okay.
Yep.
So, so you got into stats. What was it you were looking to do with statistics?
So, wildly enough, this is completely different than what I ended up doing. I wanted to be an actuary, which is the person who calculates insurance risks and premiums. I had a prof that told me, hey, I think you're smart enough to do it. You could totally do it, but I think you're going to hate it. You love being around people. You love helping people. You love working with people. I can see that. And being an actuary, at least at that point in time, I didn't see where that was going to happen. So completely made a shift. I went into sales out of college, worked in tech, ended up out in Silicon Valley. And that's actually, I know we're going to talk about AI a little bit. I was in Silicon Valley during when ChatGPT was first available.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I mean, and I love this background, right? Because I am a user, like I'm a power user of AI. I got in and started using it, teaching it about 3 years ago, ChatGPT, and as tools have evolved and developed and all that. And I feel like I'm like ahead of 90% of the people, right? You, on the other hand, you were there when it was born. Like, the deep magic, you know what I mean? So my guess is you were having conversations with people who were tinkering around on the back end.
Of course. I mean, most of my friends when I was out there were engineers.
Okay.
So all the different communities I were in, I was talking to people who were really on the front of this. So even at the time, I wasn't directly involved with it. I felt like I was kind of almost an insider, which is really cool about being in that area when this was first starting to take off. And as Chris mentioned, now I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm a team leader at the Keller Williams brokerage there. So bringing that background and that viewpoint to Michigan is something that is super exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have this background in statistics. You go into sales. You're working in Silicon Valley. You're there at the beginning of the AI revolution, and I really think we are still at the beginning of the AI revolution. And now you're in this situation where you're working in the real estate industry and you're leading a brokerage, you're helping agents to grow. How does that all fit together?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, the way that I describe how I look at things, it's not even about being a techie person. It's not about being a data person, but how can we win, right? And I just see, and I think everybody sees this massive, massive shift in our industry right now. And I think some people are taking it seriously, and I think a lot of people are not. It's a big buzzword right now. And the biggest thing that I'm trying to tell our agents is I think there's some fear with artificial intelligence, right? But what I tell them is AI will not replace realtors, but realtors who do not utilize AI will be replaced by those who don't.
Yeah.
And I think we're already starting to see that shift. We don't know how long it's really going to take, but something that's really important for me is making sure all the agents that I coach, we are out front of the curve.
So it's a big statement, right? AI won't replace realtors. It'll replace realtors who don't use AI, basically. Unpack that a little bit. I mean, what does that mean? Because I absolutely hear what you're saying. There's two types of agents right now. I think there are those who are like, AI is cool, but they're not really sure why.
For sure.
And then there are those who are like, AI is bad because
blank.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right.
So what is it that you think is critical for the agent at this point, right? Why do they need to evolve?
So I think it all comes down to when I talk to most agents, it all comes down to two main motivators. It's time or it's money. It's usually both, but it's usually one a little bit over the other. And what I think a lot of people are concerned about is that by using AI, it will make them feel less human, right? Because you're sending something that was essentially generated by a robot, correct? Mm-hmm. But the way that I see it is you're actually allowing yourself to be more human by having the time to actually do what your job is, which is to build relationships and to be a trusted advisor. And where I'm tying that back into time and money, it is an enormous time saver with ways that you can utilize artificial intelligence. And that's different for everybody. So what I like to do is I'm a very harsh critic of my time. And I do the same thing for the agents that I'm working with. I say, what are all the things that you're doing and what are the most tedious things that you don't like to do? There's almost always a way that you can utilize artificial intelligence to at least lessen that load and spend the time doing the things you like and the things that you're really good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The metaphor I like to use is, this is your unlicensed assistant.
Yeah.
Right. And you're the licensee. You bear the burden of that. And so there are a lot of things as a real estate agent I can have my unlicensed assistant do, but ultimately I'm the person responsible, right? And so can I have my unlicensed assistant write the property description? They can take it 90% of the time. Just like if I'm a Thomas Kincaid painter, he does like this, you know what I mean? It's the same thing, right? You're just putting the in on it. Can they review the contract and give me a summary? Absolutely. But I'm still responsible for it. Like, I need to check the unlicensed assistant's work. And I don't know that there's many people out there who are like violently opposed to having an assistant work in their business.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And you make a really strong point too of it's not like what you're creating with AI is necessarily going to be your final product. But I think it is in an enormous place. Even, when I first started using AI, I was just using it as something to bounce ideas off of. And by the time you're done with that, you kind of have a assistant and sometimes even a therapist all in one, depending on what you're using it for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's get into some specifics.
Absolutely.
Right. I think, I've done AI meetups. I've done this AI summit where we had a lot of people in. And what I feel like agents are hungry for is, what, like, okay, specifically, what does it do? Like, the theory is wonderful, but show me what it can do. So what, like, if you were coaching an agent, what's step one?
Yeah. Step one, so a lot of it's just taking inventory on if they are using AI. Like I said, I'm working with a lot of agents who are either not using it or maybe just for very basic tasks, correct? So step one will be, if you're not using AI, download ChatGPT. I'd always recommend getting the $20 a month version. I think it's totally worth it for a lot of reasons. One of them being you have an unlimited amount of prompts that you can give it. I would say that step one would be just start using it. Anything that the way that I first started using it was I would just ask it, say, I need help with blank. What do I do? And it'll teach you how to use it. So you could learn AI by using AI.
And that is one of my favorite hacks. And I've heard a number of experts say it too. Just ask it how to do whatever it is you want to do. You know? Yeah. So I think people, and I've noticed this with technology, it's not just AI, but like we all revert back to that kid who's afraid they're going to fail the test.
Yeah.
And so we don't play with it because we're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, like, you can't break it. Right. And if you do, just erase the memory and start over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was frustrated with AI at first and I was like, wait, why don't I just tell it how I want it to respond to me? So I had AI, I told it all the things I wanted and I said, give me a description of what I'm saying that I can program you to respond in a certain way. So now I've given AI enough of my own writing and my own dialogue that I always joke around with people. I'm like, I think I'm fully replaceable at this point because I can basically say write an email and it sounds like me, which is crazy. It's almost a little spooky, but it is super beneficial and time saving for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a buddy who does a lot of social media marketing and manages like 60 million in social media. And it's a lot of video production. And it's just some repetitious, kind of tedious things. He went to ChatGPT and he said, here's what I'm doing. How can you help me make this easier? And he ended up going through the process of writing a script for a Premiere Pro, does 90% of his work.
Yeah.
Like what would take 8 hours is done in like 30 seconds now, And so I think that's huge. You started to get into customization a little bit. You mentioned that it's writing like you, right?
Correct.
So your step one was play with it, ask it how to use it. Is that step two? Where do we go from there?
I think that it depends on how you want to use AI. But what I do, you're saying what do we do after we have it kind of customized and it's...
How do you even get there? So I've asked it how to use it. I'm playing with it. I got it doing some simple tasks like writing emails or property descriptions or whatever. But you just, what you said about customizing it so that it writes like you, that I think is something most people haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
Right?
So one of the first things you can do is personalize it in your settings, how you want it to speak. So for example, I like it blunt. I like it to, when it's talking to me, I want it to not be wishy-washy. I was having a lot of things where it could be this, it could be this. I want it to be blunt, which sometimes I realized it's a little harsher than I like sometimes. I take it personal, but I know that I told it to do that.
Absolutely.
But then from that point, what I did is I inputted a bunch of writing and emails and styles of how I write and how I generally speak. So then I can prompt it saying all of the writing that I have given you, use that when styling all of my emails.
Okay. So you did that in your general GPT, not in like a custom GPT.
That was in my general GPT.
Okay.
You can do it in a custom GPT, of course.
Right. But then you're giving, essentially, then anybody could write like you.
Absolutely.
Right. Which is a little bit troubling.
I found it troubling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
I said I don't want to be too replaceable.
So how did you take emails that you've written? Did you have to go write new samples?
I did write some new ones, but honestly, for most people, I think just putting in a couple samples of your writing, I think will get you the style. And you can instruct it too on the style.
Mm-hmm.
Like I gave it, if it's someone that you're speaking to casually, you'll say, give a casual tone. So then there's certain emails or writing that I've given that was more in a casual tone. There's some that are more in a professional tone. Because no one wants an email. We've all seen emails that have come from someone that they clearly put it in ChatGPT, and it has the little emojis, and it has everything, the long dashes, everything that makes it look exactly like ChatGPT. I don't think anybody has a problem with us using ChatGPT. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't, right? I think that we need to at least make it look like we put some effort into it.
Absolutely. I think it's context, right? Like, and I think as a user, you have to decide too the value, right? So if I'm writing an email to you as a business partner or as a client, then I think you expect me to take some time on it, right?
Correct.
But if I'm writing marketing emails that are basically going to get, deleted if they get opened, like I can probably be a little bit looser with that. Like that's not as like critical, right? And I think that's where people get hung up sometimes is, and I've talked to agents. I just had an AI meetup where we were talking about this, and I want it to reflect me and be perfect like me. And I'm like, you're like print materials. You are printing out like expensive trash.
Yeah.
And those in emails, it's digital trash 90% of the time. If it's just drip campaigns.
I mean, I think we're at the point where we can utilize this as a tool to the extent that I almost feel that's irresponsible with your time, to your client's time, with everybody's time. If you're not utilizing, at the end of the day, if you're just spending most of your time doing paperwork and administrative work and not helping your clients, I think it's borderline irresponsible with your time. And I know that's a hot take. Some people are going to disagree with me on that. But if you have the tools and you can save time, you can spend more time doing the things that are important to you. I think that is absolutely what you should be doing.
Yeah, no, I am. So I've started incorporating just in my consulting with my clients, and my coaching efforts. Like I have an AI scribe, and it just listens to the whole conversation.
Yeah,
right?
when I met you last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, but again, it is way better than I am at
Yeah.
taking those notes, and then I can review the notes and I can say, all right, what are the things that we need to follow up on? What's the touch plan that I should do over the next couple weeks to continue to move the ball forward to X, Y, and Z. But for a real estate agent, like if you're not using that level of care with your clients, you're right. It's almost unforgivable at this point.
Yeah, I just
Right.
had a colleague that I was speaking with who has been spending a lot of time with inspection reports, and they've had clients who have been really stressed, right? Inspection reports are very long and they can be very scary depending on someone gets a laundry list of all the things and makes it sound like your house is condemned. And so I had a prompt that I have been using for inspection reports that give it ranks the priority of things that are major concerns, things that are maybe less concern, because a lot of times in the reports, depending on your inspector, if you have a really good inspector, it'll be clear, but sometimes it's not super clear what's really important and what are things that it's more of just like a general maintenance or cosmetic upgrade, right? So the prompt that I have will rank the order of those. It'll give a generalized cost range. I'll adjust it if it's not, perfect.
Right.
And then it'll give guidance kind of on what this means for you and your purchase, which I just think I could have read. I mean, yes, of course I read the inspection report, right? But this just gives me an outline and something that I can send to my client where I feel like they're fully informed. And that's the most important thing for us as a trusted advisor, is that we are fully informed and that we can make them feel confident in one of the biggest decisions they're going to make throughout their lifetime.
No, absolutely. It's, I think you nailed it in that this helps clarify, it helps review, it can check you. But again, there's that, it's your unlicensed assistant. If it blows it, you're buying the refrigerator.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and so you have to take that same approach. And that's where I think it's agents need to understand, because even with like people, sometimes agents can get a little bit hands off on things, and you're like, no, like you're still the licensee, right? So you have that burden of reading it, reviewing it, understanding it. So ultimately, you're the one giving the advice, not the GPT. And if it screws up, you can't blame OpenAI. They're not going to take it, right? Okay, so we've talked about customization. We've talked about leveraging the 80% kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Taking notes, responding to inspections. What else? I mean, what's the next?
Yeah.
Like, what takes you from entry level to power user?
Yeah. A big thing that a lot of our agents have been utilizing, role playing is super scary for a lot of people with another person, right? I totally get it. It's especially when you're learning to do it. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. You get nervous. I've taught a lot of our agents how to do that with ChatGPT. I'm sure you've tried this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can pick any sort of situation you want. This could be a listing presentation. This could be a negotiation. This could be calling a FSBO, right? And you can tell it exactly what the situation is, and you can say how hard you want it to be on you. And it is very good. I've actually continued to push it to see how hard it could get to me. And then one of them, I was like, be hard on me and insult me. And it was just like at the end of it, it's like, you're a loser. Don't talk to me. I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's way too much. But the amount, so when I'm in the car, I'll just be practicing role-playing conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a huge opportunity. So when you're in these important conversations, that wasn't the first time that you've done it.
Yeah. No, I there's something to that where I can get through all of the negative possibilities and by the time I start getting into it for real, it doesn't hurt, right? Or I'm warmed up. And there's a part of me that thinks man, if you can flip that switch in your brain so that when you're talking to real people, contextually, you feel like you're still talking to the computer, so that rejection from that stranger doesn't hurt anymore. Wow, you just developed a superpower, right?
Correct.
And that's when I talk to inside sales associations, right? That's their superpower. It's never personal. But for me, I'm not doing 100 calls a day. When someone tells me to go blank myself, there's a part of me that feels that.
Yeah.
Well, if the AI just told me to go blank myself 6 times, then I'm probably fine. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if you could use it enough so that now your recognition system began to recognize human calls in the same way?
Well, I think absolutely too. I mean, what I do is if there's certain objections that I want to work on, I'll tell it the objections that I want it to work on, and it'll give it to me in a random order. So I'm not like, okay, here comes the time objection or here comes the whatever. But I think that by hearing those same objections over and over and over is just muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
And that's for all sales. If we have obviously listeners here that maybe aren't in real estate, I mean, that's for sales and life in general. I think this is a great tool.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right too, in that like we all have hard conversations in our life.
Yeah.
And most of the time we just fly into them. But what would be different if you practice that hard conversation, whether it's like you're talking to your adult child and hey, we had a conversation, help me run through this. It's interesting to have a role play partner like now and think about it that way. Okay, so we're doing that. We've got it, doing the administrative, we're doing the role play with it. Do you see that your clients, your consulting clients, the agents you're working with to grow their businesses, do you see them implementing these strategies?
I think you're absolutely right, Chris. And we can have a lot of talk and jargon about AI, but if we don't have specific things that actually work for them, it's not super helpful. So, I give you a couple of specific things, like we'll talk about inspections, talk about role playing, and I'll show them how to do that actionably. And they do utilize it. I think there's a lot of people that really, you can't throw everything at them at once. Some people are like, bring it all in, give me everything you got. I love that. But you do not have to be someone who's techie to be able to use AI. You don't even have to know how AI works to use AI. It's kind of like a lot of people drive a car that don't know how the engine works. I'm one of those kids, right? So you just need to know how to talk. If you know how to talk, you can talk to AI. So that's the biggest thing, is being able to overcome the fact that we are in a changing industry and that we can use this as a tool.
Okay. It's one of the things that I've seen just over the last couple of weeks is the real estate transaction by its nature is stressful, right? The minute you list your home for sale, you are homeless, right? Or the minute you say you're buying a house, you're homeless. It just is like, it's Maslow's pyramid of ascending needs, right? Like that very basic level is shelter. And we, when we're dealing with people, when they feel the least sheltered. And what I've found is having the agents stop, take the communication, have the GPT or, your AI of choice analyze that communication and then suggest like how to move forward and talk to the person. I've seen like a number of breakthroughs. Where it's like, wow, and I don't have the wherewithal to stop and do that,
I have something that's really interesting that I'm just starting to utilize, or it actually will analyze. It's a custom GPT that will analyze the disc, like a disc assessment based on the interactions you've had with someone, and will give a different response based on what their kind of assessment was. If it was a more aggressive person, if it was a more laid back person, and it would kind of give a response based on their personality type, which I thought was crazy, right? I mean, to be able to, there's some things that I didn't see that they noticed just in a few sample texts that was maybe like, this person could respond better with this sort of communication style.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you this ability to respond and again, to be present in a way that you never could before.
Yep.
Like for me to be present to my clients, each specifically in their communication style, like I don't personally have that bandwidth, flip, but I can take my AI, I can feed, like you said, give it the disc, it knows my client's personality type. Then I can role play with freaking commerce and it can grade me. Like, how did you do? Well, you weren't direct enough or you weren't this enough. And now when I go and have that pricing conversation, I'm not going, I am speaking directly to the client who's direct. I'm speaking emotionally to the person.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a time ever in history where you had that level of specificity, from your assistant.
Of course.
Yeah.
And something, an even much grander point when you talk about from your assistant and what you can gain, I don't think there's a single assistant that can analyze data the way that ChatGPT can. I said I come from a stats background, and you can literally pull any report, any numbers, any local market data, and you can make sense of very large data sets very quickly. ChatGPT. I know there's a lot there. I know there's a lot to unpack with that. We could have 3 more segments on that.
Yeah, I mean, so just sort of along those lines, I was, we just had the World Series, right?
Yeah.
And I am a Padres fan, so I was not necessarily rooting for the Dodgers. And although it hurt to root for Canadians, it is what it is. But so I said, who's got a greater chance of beating the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Was it the Blue Jays or was it the Mariners, right?
Yeah.
And it ran like X number of scenarios. Like, it gave me the the Blue Jays have better chance than the Mariners, but they're still not likely to beat them. And I was like, but like, these are questions that I've never, like, I couldn't have figured that out. Like, I'm doing a sketch, and again, that's a huge data set, right? It's running all of the players' stats against each other. And it just does it like that today, how can we put that at service of our real estate career, our clients, our businesses?
I mean, I think being someone who is the expert in our industry, we need to know at a very high level what is going on in our local market, right? That is our clients. Some of them know more than others, of course. They see what's on the news. But for us to have a very hyper local and very focused knowledge of our market at a very high level and see where it's moving, is super, super, super important. So what I'd recommend for agents is to take your local market data, I would say weekly, and upload it and see what it tells you. You can ask it questions. Obviously, it'll give you the basic data, but if you're having any trouble interpreting what that means, just ask it questions. And I always recommend, if you're asking it to do something, then also ask ChatGPT to say, before responding, ask me follow-up clarification questions before responding. Sometimes I'll ask for a data analysis and it just gives me completely the wrong thing, and it will save you a ton of time just by asking a couple clarifying questions.
No, absolutely. I would say, depending on how your data comes out, if you've got a CSV or whatever, ChatGPT will make assumptions about what the columns mean based on the abbreviations, and that can be radically different than what you wanted. So, so ask me questions. Don't assume anything.
Yes.
Ask me clarifying questions. And that's a huge hack, right? Yep. So yeah, I love that. And then just, have it run the numbers, have it crunch it. Are you using any other AIs to do this? Are you 100% in ChatGPT? Or are you messing with Claude or Gemini or any of the other?
I use predominantly ChatGPT.
Okay.
I found some interesting use cases with Grok.
Right.
There's like have you seen the live interactions you can have with the camera with Grok?
No.
So you could basically say with Grok, what am I looking at? And it'll give you a description of what you're looking at, right? So you could have the use case of while you're at a showing, you could see there's a corner over here. In real time, you could say, Grok, what can I do with this little nook? And then it could send you a picture of maybe it's like a perfect little coffee setup in this spot in real time.
Yeah.
So I found that to be kind of an interesting use case. I think right now, in my opinion, ChatGPT is the most versatile, so that's what I've been using for most of it.
It's definitely the most user friendly. I'm finding Gemini and like Nano Banana, you can do some really cool things with that. But again, it all changes so quickly. Like if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, video production, I would have said Google Flow, right?
Yeah.
But then they released a new Sora, right? And so now you got to figure out which one's it. And I think that's the hardest thing right now is the arms race is not over, right? Like everybody's upgrading. I think ChatGPT wins by default just because it's the one that has the most name recognition for sure. But, I think that's the next level is, which one is best at which thing and tuning that in. And again, as an agent, that's where I start to get overwhelmed, right? It's like, well, frick, I got to go to Claude for this and I got to go to Gemini for that. And Grok's the one I got in my car. And I'm like, right. And so what I hear you saying is don't stress about that. Just integrate GPT right now.
Yeah. Okay. I think that would be a great start. I think that something else to be said, and this is something else we could talk a ton more on, but it used to be right where you would go to Google for everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very large percentage of the population, and it's rising, that are going to ChatGPT, right? So who are obviously the use case we think of, who are the best realtors in Temecula? Who are the best realtors in Ann Arbor?
Mm-hmm.
And there will be names that come up. So we're not just thinking about search engine optimization. We're thinking about generative engine.
Yeah,
optimization.
that I think is the frontier, because if you're not showing up, then you don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Because you're right, that I don't Google things anymore.
Yeah.
I chat GPT or I Gemini, and so knowing how to be relevant, and so what are you teaching people in that regard? Like, what's your first step?
It's really interesting. There's a lot of research on how AI is pulling that information. What it seems like to me in all cases is, I mean, the first step is if you do not have a website with a lot of text information, you need to be doing that. Because it will not be able to find you if there isn't info on the web for you. And you also want to write your story.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge, and I just had an expert talking about this. All of those dynamic websites, the Java stuff, AI doesn't see it.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you've got that really website, that's great, but you might be killing yourself if you don't have like a text file someplace that it can read.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We got to step back.
And if you feel bad bragging about yourself on your website, have someone else write it for you. Because the thing is, if you don't write your story, nobody's going to see it, and the AI engine sure as heck won't see it.
I mean, I have AI write it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, just do that.
Exactly.
Research me and write my blog, write my description. Yeah. Right. Totally. About me page, whatever it is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So AI optimization. So that's one. Get the text there. What else? Is there anything else that you're pointing people towards?
Yeah. I think that having the text, I don't know if this is true or not, so you go do your own research on it. I had heard that if you can make it where you're getting a large number of kind of recommendations, so you're saying, here are the best things to Ann Arbor or whatever, here are the best buyer's agents in Ann Arbor, and maybe if you are a buyer's agent, mention like a couple other names. I think it's a bold move, but also I've heard that the AI engine will say, oh, it's a less biased source because there are other names mentioned besides this person who it's written from.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because if it's just me talking about me all the time, it's going to look at it and be like, it's you.
Yeah.
But if it's me or it's my website and it's talking about multiple parties, it's, there's some validity there.
And I think there's ways you can weave that in where it's very natural course.
So. Yeah. And again, the market's big enough. I've heard that. I've heard frequency bias, right? Like if you have that static page that lives in the web and it's never updated, it's going to overlook that because it's looking for, more current information, right? Conversely, if you go on your website right now and dump like 20 blogs, it's going to say, nah. So it is, you got to thread this needle. And I think what it comes back to over and over again is consistency. If you want AI to recognize you, if you want AI to recognize your site, then it can't just be a business card in space anymore. You have to be updating on a regular basis.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And the good news is you can use AI to do that. Right? I mean, that's pretty killer. So, okay. So we talked about just playing with the tools. We talked about customizing the tools. We talked about leveraging out the administrative stuff. We've talked about role playing with it. We've talked about now looking at your presence so AI can find you. What else?
So one of the most useful things that people I've been working with on optimizing how they're using AI has been actually their calendar, which is is one of the actual first use cases that I have found highly, highly useful, but I was not expecting to get out of AI. So, everybody has their goals, and usually when I'm working with someone, I need to know what their goals are so we can help them hit it. It could be making more money. It could be time. It could be spending more time with family, whatever that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that I think have priorities, and they say that that's their priority, but they look at their calendar and it maybe sends a different message, correct? So what you can actually do, and this is what I did, so I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, is I put in my top priorities of what I wanted to be spending my time on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can add tasks in. These obviously some weeks are going to look different than others. But basically what it was able to do is make a calendar for me based on what my top priorities are. So, if I said fitness was one of my top priorities, it's going to say, okay, Ben, you need to be in the gym blank times a week. And if it's, obviously, if you can change it, you can say, no, I think 7 days a week is overkill. I want 5. So what it will do then is it will make a custom calendar for me, And then I will say the tasks that I have that week that can be inputted into the calendar. And then you can upload that. You can make it into a Google Calendar link and upload it into your calendar. So then you have to be hyper intentional then. Say you kind of have to, walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk. If these things are important to you, ChatGPT will make sure it holds you to it when it's building out your calendar. So I think some people are very interested in being hyper intentional with scheduling. I'm one of those. But you can adjust it to be however you want it to be.
Yeah. But I think this is back to, it's your personal assistant.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and again, if I'm a high level executive, my personal assistant controls my calendar. I don't. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my perfect world, I don't actually know what's happening tomorrow. My assistant does, and they tell me, and I make sure I'm there.
Yeah.
And giving the GPT that sort of permission aligned with your goals. And again, you're reviewing it, you've got right of first refusal, all of those things. Yeah, it seems like a very powerful tool. Do you then leverage that with accountability?
You can.
Okay.
Right. You can. As you know, there's a lot of different ways to do it. ChatGPT has the option to send you notifications. If you want notifications to say, hey, reminder, it's time to get ready to go to the gym, or a reminder, it's time to do your lead generation. You had a lead generation block, and this is something that's important to you, and it can remind you of that. You can talk about it after the week and say, I did these things. Maybe we need to make some adjustments, or maybe I just need to make some adjustments with my mindset, right?
Yeah. Now, I've got a buddy who's using it, and he has essentially created one that is his coach. How it wants to coach him, I was talking about. And so then he can go through just, did the exercise, schedule priorities, all those things. But then like a weekly session where it's just like, call me on my BS, right?
Yeah.
It'll go through that. And hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Why didn't you do it? Hey, it sounds like victim mentality, blah, 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 all this thing.
Sure.
And again, like coaches are expensive.
Yeah.
You could do, and again, I could tell it, research top 5 like coaches in the world, and I want you to take on this personality. And it can, right?
Yeah.
And it really is, it democratizes some of these things that weren't available to other people for $20 a month.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. Well, Austin, we're coming into, I think we're a little over 30 minutes, which I found is right about the time that I'm willing to listen to a podcast. And most people too. So you are actively coaching and consulting with real estate agents in the Ann Arbor area.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your schedule look like? If someone wanted to get in and start applying these tools and sit down for coaching with you, do you have room in your calendar?
Yes. I do have room in my calendar. I am a busy person, of course. I'm a realtor, I'm a coach, and I'm leading our brokerage in Ann Arbor. But yes, I do. I would love to. I'm super passionate about where the industry is going.
Yeah.
I want to be supporting any agents who want to be on the front of this big change in the industry, people who are willing to change, people who are willing to grow. Those are the people that I want to work with.
So how does someone get a hold of you?
Send me an email, austin.thompson@kw.com. Send me an email. I'd love to talk and see what your goals are and see what we can do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Austin put it perfectly. If you are not applying these tools, what's going to happen is they're going to be used against you. And, the reality is you got into real estate because you wanted to have an incredible life where you got to spend time with your family. You got to be your own boss. You got to earn as much as you wanted to. And for a lot of us, that became chasing Zillow leads for somebody else. And the reality is it's time to take your life back. If you're looking to learn more about how you can take these tools and apply them to your business, you can get in touch with Austin
Austin.Thompson@kw.com.
Or you can reach out to me here at prosperitycollabs.com, and we will catch you next time.
If you're ready to grow your business with clarity and confidence, book a free coaching call with Chris Mueller. Visit prosperitycollabs.com for details and to subscribe to Chris's blog. Thanks for listening.